History is often shaped by the actions of extraordinary individuals, figures whose names echo through time, celebrated for their courage, wisdom, or leadership. Yet some of the most profound impacts on our world have come from the least expected sources. Ordinary people who, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, rose to the occasion and changed the course of history. These unlikely heroes started with no grand ambitions or claims to greatness. They were teachers, nurses, businessmen, and everyday citizens, but when the moment called for it, they acted with remarkable bravery and compassion. Join us as we explore the inspiring stories of 8 such individuals, ordinary people who became extraordinary heroes. Let us begin our journey with the remarkable story of Harriet Tubman. Born around 1820 in Dorchester County, Maryland, Harriet Tubman entered the world as Araminta Ross, a child born into the brutal institution of slavery. From a young age, she was subjected to harsh labor and physical abuse, experiences that were all too common for enslaved people in the American South. Despite the oppressive environment, Harriet's spirit remained unbroken. One pivotal moment in her early life occurred when she was struck in the head by a heavy metal weight, an injury inflicted by an overseer while she intervened to protect another slave. This traumatic incident resulted in lifelong health issues, including severe headaches and narcoleptic episodes, yet it also seemed to strengthen her resolve and deepen her faith. In 1849, fearing that she and her family would be sold, Harriet decided to escape. With courage and determination, she navigated nearly 90 miles to Philadelphia, following the North Star and relying on a network of safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. Upon reaching freedom, she famously declared, "I had crossed the line. I was free, but there was no one to welcome me to the land of freedom." Rather than settling into her new life, Harriet felt a profound calling to return and help others escape the bonds of slavery. Over the next decade, she made approximately 13 missions back to Maryland, guiding around 70 slaves to freedom, including members of her own family. Her intimate knowledge of the terrain, coupled with her resourcefulness and unwavering faith, made her an invaluable conductor on the Underground Railroad. Harriet's missions were fraught with danger. Slaveholders offered substantial rewards for her capture, but she outwitted them at every turn. She used various tactics to avoid detection, traveling by night, changing her routes, and using songs as coded messages. Her bravery earned her the nickname Moses, a testament to her role in leading her people to freedom. During the Civil War, Harriet served the Union Army as a cook, nurse, scout, and spy. She gathered crucial intelligence behind Confederate lines, contributing to military operations such as the Combahee River Raid, which resulted in the liberation of over 700 slaves. She was the first woman to lead an armed expedition in the war, further solidifying her legacy as a pioneering figure. After the war, Harriet continued to advocate for civil rights and women's suffrage. She established the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged in Auburn, New York, providing care for the elderly and indigent. Despite her monumental contributions, she faced financial struggles and was denied a government pension for many years. Harriet Tubman passed away in 1913, but her legacy endures as a symbol of courage and resilience. Her life story is a powerful reminder that one person's determination can alter the course of history. She once said, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer." Harriet was that dreamer, and her dreams led countless others to freedom. As we reflect on Harriet's extraordinary journey, we transition to another woman whose compassion and dedication transformed the field of nursing, Florence Nightingale. Born on May 12, 1820 in Florence, Italy, Florence Nightingale was raised in a wealthy British family. Expected to marry well and assume the role of a socialite, Florence instead felt a divine calling to serve others through nursing, a profession that at the time was considered unfit for respectable women. Defying her family's expectations, Florence pursued her passion, studying nursing in secret and eventually receiving formal training in Germany. Her opportunity to make a significant impact came during the Crimean War in 1854, when reports emerged of appalling conditions in British military hospitals. Soldiers were dying not from their wounds, but from preventable diseases caused by unsanitary conditions. Florence assembled a team of 38 nurses and headed to Scutari, Turkey, to aid the wounded soldiers. Upon arrival, she was confronted with overcrowded hospitals, inadequate supplies, and a complete lack of hygiene. Undeterred, she implemented strict sanitary protocols, organized the kitchens and laundries, and established a system for patient care that emphasized cleanliness and nutrition. Her tireless work drastically reduced the mortality rate. She became known as the Lady with the Lamp, a reference to her nightly rounds to check on patients. Beyond her hands-on care, Florence collected data and used statistical analysis to advocate for healthcare reforms, making her a pioneer in the field of medical statistics. After the war, Florence continued her mission to improve healthcare. In 1860, she founded the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas's Hospital in London. This institution professionalized nursing, emphasizing education, discipline, and compassion. Graduates from the school spread her principles worldwide, elevating the standards of nursing care. Florence also authored numerous books and reports, including Notes on Nursing, which became a foundational text for the profession. Her advocacy extended to public health, sanitation, and hospital design, influencing policies in Britain and abroad. Despite suffering from chronic illness, likely due to brucellosis contracted during her time in the Crimea, Florence remained dedicated to her work. She received numerous honors, including becoming the first woman awarded the Order of Merit in 1907. Florence Nightingale passed away on August 13, 1910. Her legacy is profound. She transformed nursing into a respected profession and saved countless lives through her emphasis on hygiene and compassionate care. She famously said, "I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse." From the battlefield hospitals of the Crimean War, we now move to wartime Europe to explore the story of a man whose unexpected heroism saved over 1,000 lives, Oskar Schindler. Born on April 28, 1908, in Zwickau, Austria-Hungary, now Svitovi, Czech Republic, Oskar Schindler was a German industrialist with a reputation for being opportunistic and indulgent. A member of the Nazi Party, he seemed an unlikely candidate for heroism. However, his actions during World War II would defy expectations and leave an indelible mark on history. In 1939, following Germany's invasion of Poland, Schindler moved to Krakow and acquired an enamelware factory, employing Jewish workers who were a source of cheap labor under Nazi policies. Initially motivated by profit, Schindler enjoyed the wealth and status his business provided. As the war progressed, Schindler witnessed the horrific treatment of Jews under Nazi occupation. The liquidation of the Krakow ghetto in 1943 and the brutality inflicted upon his workers deeply affected him. Determined to protect them, he began to use his resources and connections to shield his employees from deportation and death. Schindler bribed Nazi officials and manipulated records, declaring his workers essential to the war effort. He provided better living conditions, additional food, and medical care within his factory. His efforts intensified when he learned of the Nazis' plans to close factories and send Jews to concentration camps. In a daring move, Schindler persuaded officials to allow him to relocate his factory to Brunlitz in Czechoslovakia. He compiled a list of over 1,200 Jewish workers, men, women, and children, who would accompany him. This list became known as Schindler's List, a lifeline for those destined for extermination. Even when faced with setbacks, such as a train carrying his female workers being redirected to Auschwitz, Schindler intervened personally to secure their release. He spent his entire fortune on bribes and black market purchases to keep his workers safe and his factory operational. After the war ended in 1945, Schindler was virtually penniless. He fled to Germany and later moved to Argentina, struggling financially for the rest of his life. The Jewish community he had saved supported him as best they could. Oskar Schindler passed away on October 9, 1974, in Hildesheim, Germany. At his request, he was buried in Jerusalem on Mount Zion, the only member of the Nazi Party to be honored in this way. His story gained widespread recognition through Thomas Keneally's novel Schindler's Ark and Steven Spielberg's film Schindler's List. Schindler's transformation from opportunist to savior is a powerful testament to the impact one individual can have, even under the most unlikely circumstances. He once said, "I knew the people who worked for me." When you know people, you have to behave towards them like human beings. As we reflect on Schindler's profound moral awakening, we turn to the story of a woman whose simple act of defiance sparked a movement, Rosa Parks. On December 1, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, a 42-year-old African-American seamstress named Rosa Parks boarded a city bus after a long day at work. Segregation laws required black passengers to sit in the back of the bus and yield their seats to white passengers when the bus became full. That evening, when the bus driver demanded that Rosa and 3 other black passengers give up their seats, Rosa quietly refused. Her arrest for violating segregation laws was not just about a bus seat, it was a stand against the systemic oppression and racial injustice that permeated American society. Born Rosa Louise Macaulay on February 4, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama, she had long been involved in civil rights efforts, including serving as secretary for the local NAACP chapter. Rosa's act of defiance galvanized the black community. Led by a young pastor named Martin Luther King Jr., the Montgomery bus boycott was organized. For 381 days, African Americans refused to use the city buses, opting instead to walk, carpool, or find other means of transportation. The boycott severely impacted the bus system's finances and drew national attention to the civil rights movement. In 1956, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. This victory marked a significant milestone in the fight for civil rights and propelled Rosa Parks into the national spotlight. Despite facing personal hardships, including job loss and threats to her safety, Rosa remained an active advocate for equality. She moved to Detroit, Michigan, where she continued her work, focusing on housing discrimination and education. She co-founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development, dedicated to empowering young people. Rosa received numerous accolades, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal. She became known as the Mother of the Civil Rights Movement, a title reflecting her pivotal role in challenging racial segregation. Rosa Parks passed away on October 24, 2005, but her legacy lives on. Her quiet courage demonstrated that one person's stand against injustice can ignite a movement and inspire change. She once said, "I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free so other people would also be free." From the streets of Montgomery, we journey to Europe during World War II to learn about a man who orchestrated the rescue of hundreds of children, Nicholas Winton. In December 1938, a 29-year-old British stockbroker named Nicholas Winton was preparing for a skiing holiday when a friend urged him to visit Prague, Czechoslovakia, instead. The country was facing imminent invasion by Nazi Germany, and refugees were pouring into the city. Witnessing the dire situation, Winton felt compelled to help. Without any prior experience in humanitarian work, he established an organization to aid Jewish children at risk from the Nazis. Operating from a hotel room, Winton began compiling lists of children whose parents sought to save them from the impending horrors. He faced immense challenges, securing funds, navigating complex immigration laws, and finding foster homes in Britain. Through relentless effort, Winton organized 8 trains to transport children from Prague to London, starting in March 1939. He worked tirelessly, handling logistics during evenings and weekends while maintaining his day job. In total, he saved 669 children, arranging for their care and education in Britain. The largest transport was scheduled for September 1, 1939, but with the outbreak of war, borders closed, and the train never departed. The fate of those children remains a tragic footnote in history. For decades, Winton's remarkable deeds went unrecognized. It wasn't until 1988, when his wife discovered a scrapbook detailing his activities, that the story came to light. Invited to appear on a British television program, Winton was reunited with some of the children he had saved, now adults with families of their own. Nicholas Winton was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2003 and received numerous honours from the Czech Republic and other nations. Despite the accolades, he remained humble, often stating that he did what anyone should have done in his position. Winton passed away on July 1, 2015, at the age of 106. His legacy is a testament to the profound impact one person can have through compassion and action. He once reflected, "If something is not impossible, then there must be a way to do it." As we honor Winton's extraordinary compassion, we turn to the story of a man whose steadfast faith led him to save lives without ever taking one: Desmond Doss. Desmond Thomas Doss was born on February 7, 1919, in Lynchburg, Virginia. Raised in a devout Seventh-day Adventist family, he embraced the church's teachings, including non-violence and observing the Sabbath. When World War II erupted, Doss faced a personal conflict. He felt a patriotic duty to serve but was committed to his pacifist principles. In 1942, Doss enlisted in the U.S. Army as a conscientious objector. He trained as a medic, refusing to carry a weapon. His stance drew ridicule and hostility from fellow soldiers who viewed him as a liability. Despite the mistreatment, Doss remained dedicated to his beliefs and his comrades. His defining moment came during the Battle of Okinawa in 1945. Assigned to the 77th Infantry Division, Doss found himself at Hacksaw Ridge, a formidable cliff heavily fortified by Japanese forces. When his unit was ordered to retreat under intense enemy fire, Doss stayed behind to tend to the wounded. Over 12 hours he braved constant danger to rescue approximately 75 men, lowering them one by one down the ridge using a rope sling. Exhausted and exposed to enemy fire, he prayed, "Lord, help me get one more." His actions saved countless lives and earned the respect of his peers. Doss continued to serve heroically, sustaining injuries from grenade shrapnel and sniper fire. Even when wounded, he prioritized the care of others. In recognition of his valor, President Harriet Tubman awarded him the Medal of Honor, the first conscientious objector to receive the nation's highest military honor. After the war, Doss faced ongoing health challenges due to his injuries and exposure to tuberculosis. He led a quiet life, devoted to his family and faith. His story gained widespread attention through the 2016 film Hacksaw Ridge, which highlighted his unwavering commitment to his principles. Desmond Doss passed away on March 23, 2006. His legacy is a profound example of courage, faith, and the power of individual conviction. He once said, "I just felt like it was an absolute right to go to war to save life, rather than to take life." From the battlefields of the Pacific, we now turn to the occupied streets of Warsaw, where a woman named Irena Sendler risked everything to save thousands of children during the Holocaust. Born on February 15, 1910 in Warsaw, Poland, Irena Sendler was raised by socially conscious parents who instilled in her values of compassion and justice. Her father, a physician, died treating patients during a typhus epidemic, many of whom were Jewish. The Jewish community offered assistance to her family, leaving a lasting impression on young Irena. As a social worker, Irena was deeply committed to helping those in need. With the German occupation of Poland and the establishment of the Warsaw Ghetto, she witnessed the escalating persecution of Jews. Determined to act, she joined Żegota, the Polish underground resistance organization dedicated to aiding Jews. Using her position in the Social Welfare Department, Irena obtained a special permit to enter the ghetto under the guise of inspecting sanitary conditions. She smuggled in food, medicine, and clothing, but soon realized that more drastic action was needed to save lives. Irena devised daring methods to rescue Jewish children. Infants were hidden in toolboxes or under blankets in ambulances. Older children were led through secret passages, sewers, or taken out in body bags. Each child was given a new identity, and placed with Polish families, orphanages, or convents. Meticulously recording the children's real names and new identities, Irena buried lists in jars beneath an apple tree in a neighbor's yard, hoping to reunite them with their families after the war. In total, she saved approximately 2,500 children. In 1943, Irena was arrested by the Gestapo. Despite being tortured, she refused to reveal any information. Sentenced to death, she was rescued at the last moment when Żegota members bribed a guard. She lived in hiding for the remainder of the war, continuing her rescue efforts under a false identity. For years, Irena's heroism remained largely unknown. It wasn't until a group of Kansas high school students created a play titled Life in a Jar in the late 1990s that her story gained international recognition. Irena Sendler passed away on May 12, 2008, at the age of 98. She remained humble about her actions, often saying, "I was brought up to believe that a person must be rescued when drowning, regardless of religion and nationality." As we honor Irena's extraordinary bravery, we conclude our journey with the story of a diplomat who defied his government to save thousands, Chiune Sugihara. Chiune Sugihara was born on January 1, 1900, in Yaotsu, Japan. A talented linguist, he pursued studies in foreign languages and international relations, eventually joining Japan's diplomatic service. In 1939, Sugihara was appointed vice consul at the Japanese consulate in Kaunas, Lithuania. As World War II engulfed Europe, thousands of Jewish refugees fled to Lithuania, seeking escape from Nazi persecution. With borders closing and options dwindling, they turned to foreign consulates for transit visas. Official Japanese policy prohibited issuing visas without proper documentation, but Sugihara faced a moral crisis when confronted by desperate refugees. Defying his superiors, Sugihara began issuing visas at a frantic pace. For 29 days, he and his wife, Yukiko, worked long hours, handwriting visas that allowed refugees to travel through Soviet territory to Japan and beyond. He even negotiated with Soviet officials to permit transit across their land. As the consulate was ordered to close, Sugihara continued issuing visas from his hotel room and, according to accounts, from the train platform as he departed. In total, he issued visas to over 6,000 Jewish refugees, saving them from almost certain death. Upon returning to Japan, Sugihara was dismissed from the diplomatic service, possibly as punishment for his disobedience. He lived modestly, taking various jobs to support his family. For decades, his actions remained largely unrecognized. In 1968, one of the survivors he had helped located him, leading to broader acknowledgement of his deeds. In 1985, Israel honored Sugihara as righteous among the nations, a title bestowed upon non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. Chiune Sugihara passed away on July 31, 1986. When asked why he risked everything, he simply replied, "I did not care if I lost my job. I could not stand by and watch people die." The stories of Harriet Tubman, Florence Nightingale, Oskar Schindler, Rosa Parks, Nicholas Winton, Desmond Doss, Irena Sendler, and Chiune Sugihara teach us that heroism is not confined to the pages of history books or the deeds of the famous. These individuals were ordinary people who, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, chose to act with courage, compassion, and integrity. Their legacies remind us that each of us holds the potential to make a difference. Whether through small acts of kindness or bold stands against injustice, we can contribute to a better world. As we reflect on these inspiring stories, let us consider how we might respond when our own moments of truth arrive. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's most unlikely heroes. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found these stories inspiring, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical content. Together, let's continue to honor and learn from those who have shown us the extraordinary power of ordinary people.